So, hello everybody. Servus from my side. It's close to Munich. My name is Stefan Antonelli, and yeah, I'm happy to introduce Peter.
Hey, I'm Peter. I'm based in Zurich, part of the Blue Dynamics Alliance, and I think doing Plone since 2004. So a little mess with my slides, notes. So what's new in Plone 5? We had this beautiful new theme. We had a diazo theming as a default. We switched to CSS compilation with less. And yeah, we had a brand new Plone theme Barceloneta. So, Stefan.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the history, basically the story behind Barceloneta LTS. Everything started, or the whole story started in Tokyo a couple of years ago now. I had the idea of a clean, simple theme for Plone 5. It was during the conference, and that's why I called the package Plone Theme Tokyo. You can check that out as well. The theme was based on Bootstrap, with the idea of reusing stuff. I want to use components. I want to use the stuff without writing tons of CSS all the time. The package is basically proof of concept and had tons of overrides to identify what we need to touch when we want to switch the template story to any CSS framework in this moment, and the decision was then Bootstrap. I had an issue with navigation and editing on mobile, and that's what we solved with Collective Sidebar, which is a small package that gives a solution for navigation and editing on a mobile screen. This is how Tokyo looks like. At the moment, the screenshot is from 5.2, and we are going to update that in a branch with version 2 for Plone 6. The good thing is basically we just have to delete a lot of stuff. All the overrides are gone, and then we have a clean theme like that with almost no CSS and almost no templates. That's a lie. Let's say 5 to 6 templates to get exactly that what we see here. How did we get there? We had some community discussions about the stuff. There was a Plone Tagung in Berlin, there was a Plone conference sprint, there was also the Alpine City sprint, and of course some bottles of wine helped during that discussions to find out solutions, and everybody tried to use Bootstrap somehow, mostly without success or real success to have fun with that work. So our first idea was to map variables from Barceloneta to variables from Bootstrap. The result was there is a lot of stuff defined in Plone, which is also defined in Bootstrap. So we came up with duplicated stuff and thought about what's the solution for that, because we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. What's a possible solution? Touching all the templates and changing the markup in the templates to Bootstrap. The Plone conference in Ferrara came up. There was the first plip, basically, for modernizing the markup to Bootstrap 4. Now we are on Bootstrap 5. A few weeks later, we made a plip for modernizing the default theme as well, so everything should fit together somehow. The idea is to update all templates. We know it's a lie, we will never touch all templates, but the important ones. And a big major task and a little bit tricky was to tackle the form lib, C3C form. I'm not very experienced with that, but we have luckily some people helping us for touching the form lib, which means forms are on Bootstrap 5 after that work. The whole story or all the work is for enable us to write templates and reuse components without writing CSS when you want to create a template. They said I have to go to Ferrara. They said I have great discussions there, and that's how it ended somehow. So, but go to Ferrara. It's a nice, lovely place. So make things easier is the headline. With things, I mean development, I mean developing templates, templating. Things is creating a clean and theme, a clean theme for Plone without a mess, without touching a lot of files, without editing a lot of CSS or overriding a lot of CSS. That is basically what we mean with make things easier somehow. Because, or that's the reason why, creating a modern website or web app is a complex task. Front-end stuff is complex since there are thousands of devices and resolutions. A lot of things out there that needs to be handled somehow. You can watch or you can look at on a website with your VR headset or with your PlayStation. You cannot support each device separately. There is a solution or a framework needed for that. It should be easy to use components that just work and you don't have to care about them. So user expects things to work, and that's the idea for Bootstrap. There are widely known UI patterns for features like buttons, forms, hover effects, whatever. They just work out of the box, and you can now use that UI patterns. So from a developer's perspective, there should be one way to do things. The idea is we use a framework, we use somehow standards for that, and Plone Core, the ecosystem, all the add-ons can rely on CSS, on some stuff that is there, and can write nice and shiny templates without touching CSS or have a lot of work to get that up and running. When you are working with Plone, you're a fan of Python, you are a fan of systems. You should not consider it with designing stuff in the first step. Of course, design is important, but the first step is do the templates and get the stuff to work. And the second step is make it nice and shiny. By the way, Peter is later on showing something that is nice and shiny. As a developer, you don't want to think about markup. That's what with Bootstrap comes. You can just use components. There is, for almost everything, there is a component, especially forms, buttons, and a lot of custom stuff is still possible. The good news, or the very good news, is there is documentation. We don't need to reinvent the stuff. We don't need to rewrite documentation. The Bootstrap documentation is now our documentation. What you can see there works in Plone. You can fully rely on that framework so far. I will hand over to Peter now.
Yeah, so we already heard what's new in Plone 6. We have this Volta as the new default UI, and we have Stefan, kannst du weiter? Then we still have the classic UI, but we updated the markup with Bootstrap 5. It still has the same Barceloneta look and feel, but we updated it. Stefan? So this is the 5.2 Barceloneta theme, and the next slide, this will be the slightly updated version of Barceloneta, which is fully based on Bootstrap. What also is new, that we don't have any through web theming anymore, but we reintroduced the custom CSS override through the themes control panel, which will allow you to just add your quick and dirty CSS styles. And in the future or near future, you also can override CSS variables or custom properties. We will follow the path of Bootstrap 5 there. There are already a few CSS variables that you can change, but not fully yet. One point that will be modernized, Hannes already talked about, is that we have a new JavaScript story, or not so new. We will get rid of old stuff. Oop, just skip something. Yeah, one point that maybe wasn't mentioned is that we updated, or were able to update jQuery finally to the version 3, which is the latest version. Yeah, then let's go over to Bootstrap. Bootstrap is still the most popular front-end framework. It's well documented. It has tons of examples. It's tested and maintained. And honestly, we were missing out a lot of fun. While doing Bootstrap, it was so easy to change stuff, create stuff. And yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. So what is also new in Bootstrap? They improved the overall look and feel. They simplified a lot of the classes that you can use or able to use. They updated and extended the color system. You have a color palette where you can choose a wide range of colors. Yeah, the custom CSS properties that I mentioned. They also have their own SVG icon library, which looks really nice. And they ditched, or kind of came to the conclusion they don't need jQuery more, and it's now pure JavaScript that they use. What it also means is that they are dropping finally support for IE10 and IE11. And Bootstrap 5, this is not correctly anymore. Just this week, they switched to beta 5. So you don't have to go to version 5 Get Bootstrap anymore. The official getbootstrap.com page now shows the Bootstrap 5 beta 1 documentation. We started with Bootstrap 4 in the process of upgrading the classic UI, but just I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, we switched to the Alpha 3, and yeah, we will sure switch to the beta 1 this week or on the sprint. Yeah, Stefan?
Luckily, that's just a small change in one line as far as I remember. So let's talk a little bit about features. Which features, I mean, what do we get from that changes? I don't know why we didn't do this earlier, but what is in the package now when we switch? The most important thing is Plone core templates use Bootstrap 5 markup. As I said, in Barceloneta theme, or the Plone 6 branch of the Barceloneta theme, we started with tons of overrides. They has been moved to their own packages now. So we have lots of LTS branches. Check out the core dev build out for the current state. There is also blip config. I don't know if I have the links in my talk. We can provide the links afterwards if you like. You can test it easily out with a newly created package, and we talk about this later this afternoon, basically. What I want to say is all major templates has been touched already. This means editing forms is working out of the box without custom CSS, without custom stuff. Templates for default content types are already in. Listings work, like the tabular listing is responsive now, is one that I really like now. The control panel has been updated with lots of effort by Peter. This is in right now. There is a screenshot from Peter showed already. We the idea was not to redesign Barceloneta. The idea was to give almost the same look and feel, but just update all the markup in the templates. So the markup works together with Bootstrap default CSS that comes from your own compiled thing, or that comes when you download it, basically. We have a small site, classic.plone.de, for the current state. It's not updated right now. We will update it, I guess, after the talk, where you can see the current state. This is a work in progress, so expect some issues, expect stuff changes. Almost each week we do small changes on different things. So this is not an official demo. Bootstrap components as documented. That's what I said before, works like a charm. Our documentation is the Bootstrap documentation now. I really enjoy what you see there. You can copy and paste. They provide code examples and a little copy button. You can copy that code snippet, paste it into somewhere in Plone, and it really just works. We have tried that. I guess we have a screenshot later on. That's basically for all the components. Use it, and we really enjoyed it. I really liked it to copy stuff and paste it, and I no Plone documentation prior to that, just did exactly that. Some of the core components are already updated. We changed the breadcrumbs a little bit. We used cards for the portlets and the tabular listing. That's what you see here. The portlet on the right side is now no custom CSS, no custom markup. It's just copied and filled in with the variables from Plone. And you literally can copy and paste. What we mean with that accordion example, I guess we had to turn off the HTML filtering a little bit for the example, but basically no custom tweaks, and that's not faked somehow. I will pass over to Peter.
So what is the new Barceloneta? It's basically an opinionated set of Bootstrap variables that makes Bootstrap look like Barceloneta. And since we use we updated our markup to that, it works through the whole theme, CMS, whatever you want to call it. We try to use as little as of our own CSS on top, because we just wanted to use the full feature set of Bootstrap. And I think we kind of did a pretty good job making it look like Barceloneta before. You can really change every aspect of the theme by variables. Doesn't matter if it's colors, font sizes, spacings, grid gutters, whatsoever. What's also nice with Bootstrap, they have some overall properties that will go along through the whole theme. So if you want to have shadows, just turn it on. If you want to have rounded corners, turn it on. Or gradients within your components, yes, just turn it on and let it go. Stefan? So this is what our variables look now. Is still work in progress. You will remember or recognize some of these things. We'll quickly show you how the variables work. So this is next screenshot. So this is what it looks out of the box. Change the primary color. Stefan. Everything throughout the whole theme turns orange. Next, we turn on the shadows. Components get shadows where needed. We're turning on around the corners. And what you see in the next screen is also all the edit forms have already the same look that you defined with the variables. And on the next slide, again, the example from before, the component just takes up the colors from the variables and works. So yes, we just added a little bit of CSS or SCSS for our own components. That will be the navigation, because it's a little bit more complex than all the examples that are out there on the web. Also stuff like control panels and some smaller things. We added CSS for that. Coming to the theming workflow. Barceloneta will be an npm package. You can base your own theme on that just by including the npm package in your package JSON and run the compiler. We will build a Bob templates Plone template for the new theming workflow. I will show you later what this somehow will look like. And you still will be able to do your quick and dirty customizations even on top of that. Questions came up if there will be any diazo. Yes, it's still there. It will work as before. Mike, I think, did some optimizations in the rules XML that will allow you to make easier modifications within the content area, which was pretty hard before. I think, Stefan, it was the other. Your turn with the icon resolver.
Yeah. How to deal with icons. I came up with the idea of supporting more than just the default icons. It was in the past a little difficult or a little tricky to change icons that are used by the Plone UI. I don't mean adding icons and using in a project or stuff, that is not a problem. But what if you want to change the Plone appearance or content type icons, for example, for itself? And that way we came up with an icon resolver. This is more than the first idea I had, basically. So let's start first. We have Bootstrap icons now. Bootstrap came when Bootstrap Alpha, I guess, came out. There were also new icons. They are more linear icons. Big difference to the glyph icons, and we decided to just use them because they are Bootstrap. They are there. Why not using them? They look like that. Check out icons.getbootstrap.com for the icons. And the good news again is all the icon names you can find in the documentation are also available in Plone with our icon resolver. Icons are registered in via generic setup. So there is basically an XML. It's part of Plone.static resources. There we define a name for an icon, aka copy or paste. That's the Plone name, and assign the path to the SVG to it. That's basically stored in the registry. That's the straightforward way of making it possible to change it later. We have all the Plone icons are registered that way, all the Bootstrap icons are there, and on top of that, we registered a couple of MIME type icons for the file content type. So when you insert a file with the PDF, it shows something that looks like a PDF icon, and you can change it and you can touch it. So that's all on the customization story. So how to deal with custom stuff? Override the XML. The idea is to provide a best practice package for Font Awesome. After in a while, you have the option to touch each icon to override the path to your own SVG or whatever you want to go in there. Exactly. The icon resolver itself is works similar to the imaging story. It's the icons method is available via main template. It has a tag method and a URL method. You pass in the name of the icon. You can modify class and alt tag, and you get back an inline SVG from Bootstrap as long as it is an SVG. When you have a BNG registered, you get back an image tag with that image reference. So This is also a work in progress. We used it for a couple of weeks now, and for the Plone defaults we need for the templates, for listings, for example, they already work. So that's was the idea of icon resolver. It's 2020. We should really insert icons as SVG. That gives you the option to style them or to manipulate them, and the icon resolver is the idea of handling that. We updated the templates to make use of this already. So check out Plone's test rendering page from the core dev build out for an example, how the code should look like and how the icons are done basically. Next is the showcase with Peter. There you can see some bits of that already.
Yes, next slide, Stefan. So this is the updated overall look and feel. We also updated a little bit of the structure of the content types. We put the lead image on top because we thought that's the most common use case nowadays. If we scroll down on a typical page, we added viewlets for contributors and rights. We also restyled the tags down there. Then we redid the various listings. This is what the tabular listing looks at the moment. There's more work to be done on the listings, but I think this is the new fresh way to do listings as we use it. Next up is the event. We changed the event summary to be more prominent. Also in mind that most of people now use websites on a mobile phone. We also redid the related content on the bottom here. Yeah, and all the edit forms, as said, are already styled because we updated the CC3 forms. One side note is if you're ever looking for a CC3 form widget, they are now all in blown up CC3 form and not scattered all over those packages. Then this is what the control panel will look like or is looking. Complete overhaul. We skipped the kind of portlets on the side and used the navigation, the drop downs. We also updated all of the control panels. They all follow the Bootstrap markup now, and theming them was really easy. This is the using groups panel, and on the last one is a mobile view. So what's next? I'm giving a talk on how to theme Plone based on Barceloneta. Then Stefan will give a talk how to do that from scratch. And Mike will show you how to bring in a custom theme that you got from somewhere else and make it work with Yazo and the new way to do it. So we weren't the only ones that were working on that. So a big shout out for all those lovely people that helped on various sprints. And one side note, besides Plone, a lot of work was also done in Mosaic. There's also a branch for Bootstrap there, and it already works quite well. So questions in the face-to-face afterwards. What I want to mention is that besides the sprint on the weekend, which will primarily be on Saturday, for us at least, We will starting to continue our weekly, classic UI sprints every Wednesday, and that will continue on the January 13th. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all. Thank you for listening. I'm pop over to the Jitsi now for questions, I guess. Back to the moderator.